Hi, it's Wanda from Alanda Craft, and today I'm going to show you how to make a Christmas table runner. These are quick and easy to make and ideal for a little Christmas gift, and they're also great to just decorate your Christmas table. Now you can see here that we've got one also in an autumn toning, so you can make this in any fabric and they still look fabulous. But this is the one we're going to make today, so let's get on and do it. So here's what you're going to need. You'll need 3 feature panels that are 10 by 10 inches square. You'll also want some sashing. Now you'll need 4 pieces that are 2 inches by 10 inches, and you'll also need 2 pieces of sashing that are 35 by 2 inches. And then you're going to need your border pieces, which are, you'll need 2 that are 13 by 2.5, and you also need 2 pieces that are 39.5 by 2.5. Now if you're going to follow along and do the method that we're doing, which has no binding, then you'll also want to cut your batting and your backing to 39.5 by 17. If you're going to bind your quilt, then you'll need to cut your backing and your batting a little bit larger. So let's get on and show you how to make it. So now the next thing is to take your pieces of sashing and your picture pieces and lay them out on your mat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of sashing that measures 10 inches long, and I'm just going to attach it to the first square. I'm going to do the same with the second square, and I'm going to sew these with a 1/4 inch seam all the way down. Now on the last square I'm going to do one on one side, and then I'm going to put the other piece on the other side. Again, everything with a 1/4 inch seam. So I'll go and do that now, and then I'll come back. Now once you've sewn your strips on, it's time to sew the blocks together. So you take this one, put them right sides together, line them up nicely, and sew down here with a 1/4 inch seam. And once you have those 2 sewn together, you'll sew this one onto the end as well. Again with a 1/4 inch seam, and that'll be all our 3 blocks sewn together. So now we have our blocks all sewn together, so now it's time to add the other part of our sashing. So we just lay it down and put the sashing on either side. And what you're going to do is you're just going to lay it over there, and you're going to sew it down with a 1/4 inch seam, and you're going to do that with each piece. Okay, you lay that one on the top, one on the bottom, and sew it with a 1/4 inch seam. So there we are, I have all my sashing attached now. So now it's time to start adding our border. So I'll take my short pieces, and I'm going to lay them, of course, across the short ends. So what I'll do is I'll just lay this on top, right sides together, join it up, and with this 1/4 inch seam, and I'll do exactly the same at the other end. Just lay it right sides together, line it all up nicely, and sew with a 1/4 inch seam. So it's coming along just fine. Now we're going to add the long edges of our border. So we just take our piece and we're going to lay it along the edge here, line it up nicely at the sides, and we're going to sew down here all the way down to the end with a 1/4 inch seam, so all the way along here. And we're also going to do exactly the same with the bottom piece. So we'll lay it right sides together, line it up along the edge nicely, and sew it with a 1/4 inch seam. Right, so the borders are all sewn on, and it's looking absolutely lovely. I'm loving it. So as you can see there, they're all attached, and I'll just show you how I've ironed it, because it's not critical how you iron this, because there's no seams to match up. So if you have a light or a white fabric, you'll want to iron your seams towards the dark side. Now you can do one or 2 things. You can add your batting and your backing, quilt your table runner, and add some binding, or you can follow along with me and I'll show you how to finish it without binding. So what we're going to do now is we're going to lay our piece of batting on the mat, and we're going to place so there's our batting, and we're going to place our main piece on top of the batting with the right side facing upwards. Then we're going to place our backing on top of the main piece, and we're going to put that right sides down. Now we're going to sew all the way around with a 1/4 inch seam, but at one end we're going to leave an opening of about 5 inches so that we can turn this through at the end. Now when you start sewing, you'll start from one side of where your opening is going to be, and you'll do a back stitch, and when you come right round and you come to the other side of the opening, you'll finish with a back stitch. Okay, so I've sewn my pieces together, and I used a 1/4 inch seam, and of course I've left my piece here for the opening. I've gone all the way around the outside edge, so right the way around, and I've come back. Remember, we've backstitched both at the beginning and the end. Now I've clipped my corners, so just clip across the corner at the start, making sure you don't cut your stitching, and then just trim away some of the bulk from each side. So now I'm going to turn it through. Oh, a good thing before you clip your corners is sometimes to turn it through first, just to check that all of the sandwich is caught and everything's nice and neat. So I'm going to now just turn this through and reach into the bottom corner, through. Now once you've got it turned through, you'll just get something like a scissors or something not too sharp, and you'll poke out the corners so that they're nice and neat. And as I say, I'll neaten those, and then what we'll do is we'll give it all a good press, and then we're going to top stitch. And we'll top stitch it so that we can catch in our raw edges up here. We'll fold them in and we'll top stitch across, and we'll top stitch all the way around. We'll make sure that that's all neatened up. So as you can see, I've stitched all the way around the edge with about 1/8 of an inch top stitching, and that's caught in my opening nicely, so that's all nicely sealed. So now what we're going to do is we're going to finish this off by quilting it, just something very simple. Now, first of all, we're going to ditch stitch all the way around the border. So what we'll do is we'll start in the corner, and I'm going to backstitch. You can tie it off if you wish, the choice is yours. And then we're going to ditch stitch. Now to do that, you just pull the pieces of material apart slightly, and you stitch between the two pieces of material, kind of over the stitching that's between them. Don't go too crazy, don't pull too hard. And we're going to do that all the way around here, all the way. So that's our first step. Then our next step will be to ditch stitch, starting here with a back stitch and coming all the way down, right down to this end, tie off or back stitch here, and we'll do the same on the seam line here. Start with a back stitch or a tie off, and sew all the way in the ditch down to here. Now once we've done that, the next bit is we measure about 1/2 inch. Now what you can do is you can draw 1/2 inch lines down here, and so you can sew over the lines, but we only want them to start up here on this block, at the edge of the block, and we want it to finish at the edge of this block. And we're going to start, and we're going to tie off or back stitch and sew straight down. Now when we get to the end here, if you've drawn lines, you'll just sew across until you come to the line and sew back down the line. If you haven't, for us it was about 5 stitches. We just went 5 stitches over, and that gave us our 1/2 inch, and then we kept our foot against the stitch we'd already drawn, and we just sewed all the way up here again. And we did that all the way along so that we had these 1/2 inch lines to finish this off, and it looks really effective. I forgot to mention, before we start doing any stitching, we need to pin everything together to keep it nicely in place, otherwise the batting and the backing will slip all over the place while we're stitching. So make sure, put a few pins in here before you start. So Paula has finished quilting our little table runner, and she's done an excellent job, and just look how beautiful that looks. Isn't that gorgeous? So these make really quick and easy gifts for someone or for your Christmas table. Yeah, it just looks beautiful. So if you've enjoyed this tutorial, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to go over to the website, alandacraft.com, where you'll find all the written instructions.